This is Andrew Rochford, host of the Rochford Files on YouTube, in addition to other live streams on Twitch. And please like, share, and subscribe to the video. If you do decide to subscribe, please like some other videos and help boost them up against this YouTube algorithm. And for the last video I'm going to shoot for the night, it's going to be about a strike that may be set to happen soon with concession workers at Oracle Park for the San Francisco Giant home games. So for this story, we'll go through the article Cliff Notes, aka this tweet thread from Alex Schultz of the San Francisco Gate. Spoke to local president Amanda Singh and frustrated Oracle Park concession workers about the serious healthcare and COVID issues they're facing, which the Giants have been unwilling to address. As a result, workers are planning of strike votes Saturday. Workers are supposed to work 10 events a month at Oracle Park to qualify for health insurance. During a pandemic, sans non-Giants events, that's been difficult. Kevin Pasquale, an Oracle Park cook, told me he hasn't had health care this summer. Jeanette Copeland-Estrada fell and injured herself on the job in May. She lost her insurance because she didn't work in June. She has her insurance again, but is still in a tenuous spot. I don't want to end up being homeless. I have my grandson to worry about. The Giants have absolved themselves of responsibility and pointed to the group they subcontract Bon Appetit, but workers say only the Giants can properly address their concerns. The Giants have ignored their reach-outs and didn't respond to San Francisco Gate either. Yes, the workers are correct in this aspect that it's up to the leader of your subcontractor group to negotiate with the team, and that leader of your subcontractor, whichever it is for food concessions at your major venues around the country, they do not have the say of what they can pay their workers. It is up to the franchises themselves. Feels like an appropriate time to re-up my latest reporting on Giants principal owner Charles B. Johnson, who's worth $5.6 billion. And this shows that the Giants owner has been a frequent donator to Lauren Boebert, a House representative from Western Colorado, by the way, an area which I do not represent, and which is one of the more conservative areas in the state. Then next, Charles B. Johnson just recently gave back to Take Back the House 2022 Joint Fundraiser Committee $500,000. During the 2020 season, the Giants gave concession workers $500 each for the entire season, so that works out to $465,930 workers, which, by the way, is significantly less than what the Golden State Warriors, who also use the same subcontractor, gave their workers to take care of them throughout last season, since it was virtually every game that the Warriors, they were literally the last team to bring fans back into the Chase Center, and they at least gave them $1,000 plus better health care. Update: Oracle Park Concession Workers have voted overwhelmingly in favor of a strike. 86% turnout among active concessions workers, and 96.7% of those workers voted yes on a strike, which can now be called at any time. So I will link to the full article in this video as well for those who would like to read that in full. So that right there, I first off want to say that solidarity to these concession workers who work San Francisco area events such as the Warriors and the Giants, and what they're asking for is a $3 an hour increase, plus making it easier to get their healthcare coverage. Another thing to point out in the article is they've had an outbreak of COVID recently, which has gotten around 15 to 20 of their workers. In addition to that, they aren't allowed to, the workers themselves aren't allowed to make the customers wear masks when they're in concession lines. They also aren't allowed to ask them to pull their mask up when they come up to order as well. Then you also have to point out the fact that this 10 event a month threshold is just too high if you have to have a threshold at all. Then, in addition to that, what I don't like hearing is if you look through this thread and quote tweets, you'll see a few people fear-mongering over the fact that prices may go up because of these workers getting paid better wages. And what I've noticed is, look, if you go to a sporting event, movie theater, your food and drink prices are naturally going to be inflated to a higher total than if you were at a restaurant of most types. But the point to be made here is that there's so many workers out there who are in a position where they're not getting paid a high enough wage to survive in this late stage capitalist society. So for that, I hope whenever these workers decide to enact their strike, that it ends up being a very successful strike, because for every team like the San Francisco Giants, who is outed as not doing enough to take care of their concession workers, there's probably several other teams where concession workers under their subcontracted company are quietly taking the lack of workers' rights justice, in my opinion. And what's important here is that they have an opportunity to get a successful strike, because this article also shows back in 2013, concession workers went on a one-day strike, and it looks like at the time it worked out and they got something extracted from it. But what we've also seen recently is that that the strikes like Frito-Lay, for example, Nabisco, haven't amounted to much tangible results. So in this case, let's hope that they are able to get that $3 an hour raise that they're asking for. Also, better health care coverage and COVID protections for those workers at the ballpark. Because if they don't end up being able to get that, then look, if the Giants are playing in October in the World Series, well, in the playoffs, because the first attempt at a general strike will be October 15th. And if these Giants workers were unsuccessful in getting that anything from their first attempt, I would try to get them to have their second attempt at a strike October 15th, because the San Francisco Giants could very well be in a playoff series by then. And imagine that if your team is in a postseason game and your concession workers strike during a playoff game. That's big enough of a headline to where that can take away the focus from a game that the playoff game that the Giants are in. So I hope those concession workers will keep that in mind, and that we figure out a way to reach out to them if this. It sounds like in the coming days that they're gonna attempt this strike, but if that one doesn't work out, I would like to see them try it again October 15th for the general strike, because we do need these well-recognized workers for well-recognized entities like baseball teams, sports teams, to be involved in it to help it gain the national attention that it needs. That way, the next times that we attempt a general strike, it's going to help add to our numbers, because we're probably not going to get the raw numbers we need right away. But lastly, this Giants team, they got one of the most devoted fan bases in baseball. So they're up there in like the top 5 with the Red Sox, Cubs. Those are the teams who have some of the most consistent attendance in baseball. And you're telling me that team, the owner of the Giants, who regularly sells out games, getting nearly 40,000 fans per game at Oracle Park, cannot take care of their workers because the fan support more than justifies it. But just being a sports owner, a billionaire alone, you should have the deep enough of pockets to make sure your workers are taken care of top to bottom line. And the workers, just like many others, types of concessions and other types of workers who are clearly underpaid, deserve to get better living wage and have a successful strike in the process.